Hey, how you doing, man?
All right, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Amen.
Thank goodness.
Hey, Larry. Hey, guys. All right, Larry's here. Warren, can you hear us out there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I'm sorry, Larry, this is
Tom
Tom Tilly.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
you. You bet.
All right, everybody's here. Are we ready to get started? Might need a
Did you
little
say
bit more time
motion to adjourn?
to adjourn. No, I haven't said that yet. You're hearing things. So. All right, if everybody's ready, we'll go ahead and call to order the February 11th, 2021 regular meeting for the Town of Tallulah Falls. And we'll start with a moment of silence. Amen. All right, first I need a motion to approve our agenda. Mr. Representative Craig makes that motion. Can I get a second? Joey seconds. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we have the consent agenda, which consists of our meeting minutes from the regular meeting last month and our special called meeting, and also our water, police, and zoning administrator reports. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda? Craig makes that motion. Get a second? Joey seconds. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, our first item is attorney report.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. We have no old business, so we're gonna go on to our new business. As of last night, Keith Knudsen decided to step down, announced that he would step down from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And as I mentioned last month, I've already been talking to Harry August, and I would like to present him as Keith's replacement on Planning and Zoning. So I'd like to get a motion to appoint, okay, Joey makes that motion to appoint Harry August to fill out the remaining term for Keith Knudsen on Planning and Zoning. Do we have a second? Craig seconds. All in favor? Unanimous. Next would be our agreement for distribution of hotel motel excise tax. I'll let Linda answer any questions about that. And I think it's pretty basic, same type we've done all along.
Right, so every year we have to contract for a portion of our hotel motel tax. 40% of it is contracted out through another type of tax entity. The Tallulah Falls Business Association falls into that category. That's who we've contracted with in the past. It equates to maybe about $1,000, $1,200, somewhere in that range. But and then the other 60% goes to our general fund. But and then we use that for our marketing purposes. It's like when we raise the Tallulah Falls School and that kind of thing. But so if we want to continue with the Tallulah Falls Business Association, I talked to Ann Irvin. She is still running the Tallulah Falls Business Association, hoping to get some more involvement, especially if we get somebody in our, the George Power building. So she said that they will probably do a North Georgia Living ad, which is what they did last year.
So this is something we have to do with that portion of money anyway.
Yeah,
Either has to
so
go
if
to
you're gonna
them or
collect
Chamber of
that tax,
Commerce.
you have to use it for certain items.
Right. But we have to contract for a portion of it with somebody, either the business association or the Chamber
Or
of
we could do
Commerce or
Right, or the counties,
counties.
or Raven.
So this, we've been doing this, the document is something I believe is the same as last year's
It's last year's.
again, so. All I need is y'all's authorization to sign it. So can I get a motion for us to enter into that agreement with the business association? Larry makes that motion. We have a second. Joey seconds. All in favor? Unanimous? All right. So next is our mid-year financial report. I just thought it would be a good idea for us to kind of go through this. Now Linda has included in y'all's packet a little more detailed spreadsheet layout of all this stuff, but her summary, I think, is really all we need. 'Cause it really hits the high spots and lets you guys know where we are financially right now and whether we need to make some adjustments on how we're doing some things, so.
Right, so, like you said, you've got all the detail. I went ahead and printed all the detailed department financials showing the budget, the actual year to date and where we're at. But, just to kind of summarize it all up, we're at our 60% mark for the budgeted year. We've collected 69% of our general fund revenue, and our revenue projections look to be about on target, so I think we'll be pretty close there. All the general fund departments are also on target on expenditures, except for one line item in general administration. So we're at 73% of our total general administration budget, and we're at 63% of the police, which is just barely over the 60% mark. In the administration, we're currently over in legal fees by 37%, which is $6,733. Obviously, we're not to the end of the year yet, so I expect that to increase considerably before the end of this year. The administration budget's not going to be able to cover that. Sometimes we move line items around to cover, a little bit over in one line item or another, but that's going to be way more than we can cover within the current budget. We're going to have to do a budget amendment. In the police department, we're currently at 98% of the part-time payroll. So that's another one of those right now that we're going to have to. There's $2,187 in vehicle maintenance that she's over. Those she had new tires put on the Tahoe and on the car, so that in brakes, I think. So that kind of took that over budget by $2,187. That can probably be absorbed in that department. It's a little early to tell, depending on what her expenditures are, for the remainder of the year. But that's not too much of an amount that it might not be covered. But I just want to bring it to your attention in case it becomes an issue later in the year. The bigger issue is the part-time help, because we can't move money from another line item into salaries without council approval. So that's going to be something that you all are going to have to take action on if you want her to continue, having somebody here on the weekends and that kind of thing. That's going to obviously go, we're at the max now. So for the general fund, in total, we have a surplus of approximately $436,000, just over that. A portion of that can be used to balance the budget if you decide you want to increase any of those budgets. In the water fund, we've collected 88% of our projected revenue for the budget year, and operations are at 59%, so we're doing really good on operations. In the capital improvements, we originally budgeted $93,224 and previously amended that total with general line bypass project to $117,110. The jungle line and Hickory Nut Mountain projects are not yet complete. So we're at 95% of the budget, at $53,372 on the jungle line project, and 80% of the budget at $48,658 on the Hickory Nut project. So the immediate threat and danger grant, the ITAD grant, won't be paid until we finish the Hickory Nut Mountain project. So that's $28,845 that we'll get reimbursed for. So that's a little bit that we'll get back. SPLOST for any new water projects has been exhausted until the new Habersham SPLOST starts coming in. And just a reminder on that, that's a 6-year SPOS, so Habersham pays that out monthly. Raven always gives it to us on the front end, so we've already gotten the Raven one and essentially spent it all already on the water portion of it, excuse me. And, but Habersham's gonna take the full 6 years to get all that money in, so just keep that in mind. That's 110,000 for water and some change, but it's gonna take years, you know, to
Spread
collect
over
all
a
that. Right.
6-year period, roughly.
So the only other thing on, you know, if you want to consider, completing an existing SPOS project, all of the existing SPOS projects that we have now had water included as part of the referendum. So if we finish out a project and you feel like we've done everything we need to do in that particular, you know, item, then we can take council action to move some of that money over to the water improvements, because water was included on all of our SPOS. So that's another option, depending on, you know, what needs come up in the water department or what things we have coming up. So for now, there's $3,914 left in water SPOS, but like I said, that's already spoken for, and then some to finish out our projects. Public safety, so on the SPOS that we do have available, public safety, we still have 58,497. Roads, we still have 117,543. Parks and recreation, we still have 25,000. And then in our public buildings, we have 55,571. Y'all have any questions about any of that?
Linda, you said, you know, as, when we complete a project, then that we then can pull splash funds when,
Right.
once it's complete. Well,
Right,
would that include, you know, our project we've been working on, we're hopefully in the very near future will be through with it. I don't think it'll be too many weeks out, will it, Mike? You know?
you talking about for water?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that's a little different. I mean, there's nothing to pull out of water. But say, for instance, the parks and recreation.
Yeah, but I mean, pull out of another
Right.
department when we finish that, if necessary.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
that's what I was asking, yeah.
so as long as you've done the project,
Mhm.
so,
So we need new front doors on City Hall that seal, or do something to these front doors, so we could use public buildings funding to do that project. If that's all the projects we've got left, because we're getting rid of the Georgia Power building, theoretically, y'all could take part of that public buildings fund and shift that over to a water project,
Yeah.
should we need to.
That's what I was getting at. In
Okay.
other words, that will trigger us being able to pull funds once we complete a project. And
well, once
hopefully
you
we'll-
complete a
yeah.
project in
In that
that,
department.
Yeah, so like
you-
Parks and Rec has the full 25,000. We haven't spent anything out of that.
Yeah.
We cannot move any of that money until we do a Parks and Rec project.
Yeah.
And then you could.
Okay, that answered my question.
So we're not desperate, but we are hitting, we're hitting some high percentage of a budget mark already in some areas. And, because we had an unexpected project pop up, that jungle line issue.
Yeah.
And then we've gone a little over budget on some others.
Yeah, that's gone, and then we had to establish that other road into that tank. So we
Right,
had
having to do the other road.
unforeseen stuff that came in.
And then other things that have been going on have jacked our legal fees. You know, Warren's, we've had to have him stay involved in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and we weren't expecting to have to do that to that level when we budgeted it, so.
But Linda, these SPOS categories and that money in those categories, they've got to stay in, you can move them within those categories, right? Can't move them to the general fund or anything like that.
Right.
Okay, that doesn't offset any. legal
No,
expenses. I got you.
But for
they're
example,
just capital projects.
Right.
So this also helped bring up the, like in roads, we have $117,000. Now we have some LMIG projects that going on this year. We're going to use some part of that money for, but later on in the agenda, we have the road going up to the 55,000 gallon tank needs to be dealt with. And we've got 2 bids on how to do that. So that's where we would be able to get some of that money from as well. So I just wanted you guys,
Yeah, move it over in the water.
yeah, to see where we were financially.
LMIG's separate though, we can take care of those projects with LMIG money. And then this SPOS money, if we wanted to go ahead and create the project that we know we need to do to get to the tank,
Correct.
we could do that project, not assign any more projects to roads, and then take some money out of the roads and put it in.
Yeah, if we needed to.
Yeah, that's probably what we need to do. And then if we don't take all the money out of roads, can you assign another project down the line in roads? Shouldn't be a problem, right? I got you.
Or if you don't, you end up not using it all in water and you want to put it back into roads. for
Yeah,
another
that's right.
project
We could
comes
just
up.
shove it around.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
long
we
as
need
it's
to
a,
get- we need
as
to
long
get
as
the
it's
water
an
up in the
approved
water.
item on that SPOS referendum, then you can move it back and
And
forth.
we know we're gonna go over on the water, so we've got to have some funds.
Yeah, now we are close, like Larry said,
Yeah.
I think they said the 25th, they're gonna come out and test the new pumps. Once that test is completed and it passes successfully, they will, schedule tying everything together. But when they do, they're gonna need to send out an email to all you guys about that y'all are gonna be out of water for a few days up on Hickory Nut, on Gorge View. And then there'll be a boil water advisory for several days after that until they get a clean bill back. And we want to give people several days or maybe a week's worth of notice before we get there, so that anyone wants to store water in buckets ahead of time, just in case it takes longer than expected, can do so. So, but we're getting really close to wrapping those 2 projects up. Very, very close.
Do we have an idea how much funding the water under SPOS needs?
Not yet.
Rough estimate?
Not yet.
I got you. So we could, looking down the agenda, if we create that road project that we know needs to be done, so we can get access to our tanks and lock it up securely and appropriately, we could then go ahead and council could move that money on over, and then knowing that we can move it back if we need something in the future.
Or move just what we need each
So
each
we've
time.
got 2 different SPOS that have roads in it right now. So one has a balance of the 67,543. So we've already done some work in that one. So, you know, whatever we need to do, that's fine. For the other one is $50,000. That's the new Raven one. We have not spent anything out of that one yet. So unless we were to pay that project out of that SPOS, then you've got more options. Otherwise, we have to leave that 50,000.
So we need to do it out of that one. That frees
gives you
up-
more
that frees-
options.
Yeah, that frees up. Right, okay.
Typically, you'd rather do the oldest first, but
Sometimes you have to do
Yeah,
that.
that
what you
doesn't
got.
help us with the administration issue. We have the cost there.
right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Tanya couldn't be with us tonight.
Yeah.
She's had a previous engagement. But we do need to get with her and see what the options were. She did mention that because she's that high in her part-time help, she may need to work more hours on the weekends. And, but something we may need to discuss with her to see what the options are, whether we need to move some money in from our surplus, but that may be something we need to bring back after getting with her and letting her come to you guys.
Yeah, she's just gonna need some direction on, you know.
Yeah.
What to.
Right.
She had surgery and was
Right.
out
Yes.
quarantining with COVID for a while, so.
So some of that expense should be offset by our COVID, our CARES money that we got.
Right, so we'd have 2 weeks worth.
2 weeks of salary. Because she did have, when she was out with COVID, I know she had someone here every day those 2 weeks. And so we can cover that overage with that CARES funding that we got from the state.
That little bit, yeah. It's still a lot, but
It is.
a little bit.
But that still counts against the budget. And so we may need to make an amendment to the budget to include that.
We will, I
CARES.
mean, we'll have to add that as revenue and then offset the expenses too, but, that was
Yeah.
only $8,900.
$8,900.
And then I'm sure we can look forward to, unfortunately, some more legal fees, so that's gonna need some adjustment as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately. So,
So we may have one amendment that we, one package amendment for everything, right?
So typically, except for, just to let y'all know what's going on, and as long as y'all give us the go-ahead to keep doing what we're doing, and then, of course, figure out the police payroll, if you want her to do anything different than what she's doing, she'll need to know that, but, we typically try to just do one amendment before year end. But y'all need to know
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep you up to date every month on how much, we're talking about.
Okay.
So if anything changes at some point and y'all wanna make some kind of change, you'll have all the information that you need.
So the main move we need to make now is get down the agenda to that roads project, make sure we apply it and correct Ravens Floss. And then we could go ahead and move some money, help water out.
so right now, I don't think we have any, unless y'all want to take action on something on this report. We don't really have any action items on this, but if y'all want to, we can, or we can just go ahead and go on with the agenda unless y'all have more discussion about.
I'd like to look at it a little bit more, but yeah, I got it in my head better now. We just move forward and get to that one.
Okay.
In the future, we'll move it.
All right, so we'll go ahead and, if there's no more questions or discussion on that right now, then I'd like to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a update for our fire department. We have our Fire Chief Paul Marsteller with us. He has some purchases, I believe, he wants to bring to you guys, and some ideas, so.
Thank you. I have to apologize for not getting reports to you the last couple of months. We've suspended meetings here, and Station 17, our next closest, they don't have meetings. Station 4 and Raven are trying to organize meetings because they don't have a lot of people either. So I've asked their captain if we can join in with Station 4 for whatever people we have. Right now, we've got basically 2 people that respond and 4 people that I guess you could say are fire certified. Volunteers and all movers when you got. However, I do have a problem with equipment. Most of what we run is medical. Some accidents, which is also medical. We had an AED that is out of warranty, and when it's seen it's out of warranty, they will not support it, even with batteries. So it made me take a second to take a look at all of them. And the ones that are in the police cars are also outdated and need batteries, need pads. So we're down to actually one working AED for fire and police. I'm not sure about the ones that are in the police car, whether or not they can be updated because they have not been updated since they were new. Since they're manufactured, the standards for CPR AED have changed twice. So they would have to be reprogrammed, and new batteries and new pads. What I'm suggesting is buying 3 refurbished Zolls. There's a lot of advantages to it. 2 for the police department and 1 more for the fire department. We have used, to answer a question whether or not we actually use them, we have used them recently. We've had one at the recycle center, and when we had that drowning down in the gorge, we had one that actually worked only once and then failed because it was outdated. The Zoll is an expensive one new. However, they will sell refurbished ones at a greatly reduced price. I believe there's some information in the packet. Is it?
Yeah, those are in their packet.
So the new, they're over $2,000. On sale, they're $1,800, or refurbished, they're $799. refurbished comes with the new program, new pads, TD and Dell, and new batteries. The other advantage to the Zoll is that they're commercial batteries. They're not batteries that are $300, $400, and some of them $600 to replace. I believe, what did we figure, $60 to replace a set of Zolls?
Yeah, I think it was about $60. They're basically little camera batteries that it takes about 16 of them to run one of those. We can buy them off Amazon or get them at Walmart. Whereas the other packs, you have to buy a specially designed and specially manufactured battery for each one, and they're, I forget, $300.
Well, the least is like $350, and they go up to $400. And I'm standard AEDs. The problem is my budget is low, and I know that there's possibly a safety grant out there that we might be able to get some money for. The only trouble is I have to investigate whether or not they would count for refurbished.
Yeah.
Instead of new, and we kind of need something fairly soon to replace.
That should count at $700, should count as a capital expense for SPOS, correct? Okay, so we've got $58,000 and change in public safety that we could use SPOS on that.
Tell me, some on the used ones, do they have a 7-year warranty like the new one does?
Yes, they come with a warranty,
Okay.
and they're programmed to the new standards. They come with new pads, new battery, and
What did we find? One pad was 15 years old?
we do have some pads that are very old in the police car. Both the batteries were outdated, and this particular one failed its test. And maybe this was the one that was in the gorge, I'm not sure. There's a liability factor too, when you figure that if we go on scene and we use outdated things, the family could cite that as a reason why it was not successful.
Right.
So that's another reason why I want to keep that up. As a whole, we've been doing excellent this year as far as updating our medical equipment. The truck is great, the pickup truck is great for a first respond medical vehicle. We keep oxygen in a bag.
Came in handy the other day, having it as backup too.
Yeah, and we did have the rescue go down due to 2 batteries that we needed to put in. They were put in 2006, so they were kind of overdue.
It seems like a no-brainer,
Well,
doesn't it?
the problem is my budget is kind of limited.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we got that SPOS money.
Okay.
Pull out of that. If we can, if this used equipment is allowed to be taken out of SPOS.
Yeah, it just has to be a capital investment, and
That's it.
I think we set our cap at 500. If we consider anything $500 or more to be a capital
Yeah.
purchase.
And the refurbished is the same warranty as a new one, so there's no reason to.
It makes sense, something we definitely need
Okay, right.
and have used in the past, and it's come in handy.
And if
So,
we all have them the same with the police department and the fire department, we can have things in stock. If they are used like a pad, we can
right.
have a pad handy to replace it and whatnot like that. So that's why I was thinking standardizing them across.
One of the other nice things about that particular brand is that Raven County, the units they have on the ambulance, those pads are plugged right into their machine, so they don't have to take something off, put something else on. They just plug that right in. So that's another benefit to that particular brand in our case. So,
You say we're down to, right now, we're down to one
We have
police
one
department
working
that you know works.
that we know works, and we know, actually, this is it.
I see.
We have new pads, we've got new batteries in it, they're not too old. This is the only up-to-date unit. Now, there is one of these in the police car, outdated pads, outdated battery, it's kind of a liability. It'd be better to say we didn't have one. But, the other one that we had in the fire department, was no longer, supported. So when we went to get a battery, because the battery had died, we couldn't find any new ones. They were all, somebody was out there putting new batteries in them or something.
Refurbishing them and
And when we
That's always
contacted,
questionable.
the people, they said, well, first off, we don't support it anymore. Second off, if it's over 8 years old, you really shouldn't be using it anyway.
so how many are you proposing that, the council, or that you'd like to purchase?
I would like to see 3, 2 for the police department and 1 for
One more
fire
for
department,
us. Okay.
which would give us a total of 2.
Okay, so 3 units, at 700 and
I think it's $7.99, is that correct?
$7.99 a piece plus whatever shipping and so forth,
And, just
Tell me
one
what
thing,
you
That's
2,500.
what happens to the old machines? Is there a core charge or a trade-in required?
No,
or
they're pretty
anything?
well, they're so,
But no one's looking, going in a dumpster.
I didn't know if they allowed you a little bit of something since they
If-
refurbish them, you know?
if they had, if we had a Zoll that we were turning in,
I see. They might give you a little
but
bit.
the Heart Saver, it's so outdated. I don't know if there's anybody out there that would give us anything other than scrap.
Yeah.
I don't even know what scrap would be. The other unit that was outdated is the same way. We talked to the manufacturer, he says there is no refurbishing, or we just don't support it.
I see. I just was curious as to, you know,
It
something,
would be great if we could do it,
Yeah, I mean,
because it'd be a lot less money.
well, or at least you get
Take
a
one
little
part,
bit of
take the
credit.
extras out and
Might be a
place.
small one, but if they, in these outfits that do refurbish things, sometimes they'll credit you a little something if
Right.
you trade them one in, because they refurbish them anyway. But I understand what you're saying.
Well, these, I believe, might be 20 years old. Yeah, I'm not sure on the other one, I do know it's over 8 years, it's probably 15 years old. It was a hand-me-down, if I remember right, we got it from another fire department,
No,
the life pack.
oh, the life pack, yeah, I can't remember if that was a hand-me-down.
I
The
think
aid, that one was given to us by Raven County. one
I was
year.
thinking the life pack.
And the life pack, I think, was a used one that was handed to us after they bought new ones.
So their age kind of prohibits any type of credit we might get.
Okay, so I'm just off the top of my head, I think if the council were to approve about $3,000 of SPOS funds to make that purchase, I think that would be a reasonable expectation. That'd cover any shipping costs, anything else. And,
Do we just make a motion or? do we-
yeah, so I'd like to have a motion that we authorize the purchase at up to $3,000. And Joey makes that motion. Tom seconds. Do we have anything else? All in favor? That's unanimous. All right. Was there,
Well, just basically to finish my verbal report, being I didn't have time to make one up. I'm sorry, I worked in ambulance and other job as well. Pickup truck. So it's gonna need tires soon. And how I noticed it more was when we were trying to plow. Because the little bit of snow we had, plowing uphill wasn't an option. I had to plow downhill because we just didn't have traction. That's another reason why I was concerned about the budget, because that's gonna be another expense coming up. Another warning, we don't really, we're not in danger of not having it, but our bottles are, most of our, a lot of our bottles. not
air
most,
bottle? He's talking air bottles for
Have
our
expired.
CBAs, SCBAs.
We do have enough packs right now for the amount of people we have. The only time it would be of concern is if we get on scene and other fire departments use our equipment. Once the old tanks are empty, they cannot be refilled. I've been talking with Chief Reed about it, and he's been researching options about refurbishing them, but it's also been brought up that it might void warranties on the packs themselves. The air tanks are not cheap. They're, what are they, 900 plus?
Estimate somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 each.
Yeah, and refurbished would have been 325. But then we had the question of the liability. But I just want to make you aware that those are expired. And we have 12 tanks right now, is that
We
right?
have 12 fairly, like, tanks that are 2 years old or newer,
And so we have 12 tanks on hand right now.
which is half the tanks that we would normally have.
But I just want to make you aware of that. That is something else that might be coming up.
Yeah.
But not really, and we have enough right now for the amount of people we have.
Tires would not qualify for SPOS expenditure, but the new bottles or new air packs would qualify. So if he comes back in with a request for that, what's happened is the county Raven County had agreed and committed to purchasing us some new air packs. They did one set for us and got 4, but then they ran into a bunch of financial difficulty. And because they've got, what'd you say, 90 something bottles?
Most of their bottles are all expiring at the same time.
Yeah, they've got 90 something bottles in Raven County that they're gonna have to replace also. And so that's hit them harder than they expected, and they didn't realize they were getting in this situation. So Paul's working real hard with both counties, trying to figure out some options for us. And
I have to say that Raven County's been extremely good to us. We had a repair needed on the pumper, they paid for it. They've included the pickup in the fire department gas, so that it's lowered the cost that way. They've worked with us as much as they can, but their fire department has budget concerns as well. So we might not see those packs this year.
right,
But they fully intend maybe next year to be able to get us some. Other than that, and saying that our signs that we just got worked really good, and
yeah, those are awesome.
we had 2 wrecks. One person tried to see the gorge with his pickup, and the other person challenged his 4-wheel drive on the ice and lost.
Lost.
But the signs came in extremely handy on those accidents because they were able to keep traffic under control for both instances.
Yeah, and those were purchased with that safety grant from last year.
Yes, and the idea of the pucks, we have these pucks that blink, and that one wreck in the gorge actually went into the evening, and it was an aid being able to see the signs and the area that we were controlling. So those are very good things that we got. We still have to do the lights on the back of the pumper. I'm trying to set up an appointment with the outfitter group that's going to do it. It's already been paid for, so it's just a matter of getting the pumper over there and getting it done. But that's my report, and thank you for the consideration with the AEDs.
All right, just gonna get with Linda and figure out how to get those things ordered and paid for.
Thank you.
Be good to go. All right, next on our agenda is, I guess, street department update, but they should be getting started. We kind of did a little bit of work on Gorge View, but they're gonna finish up some shoulder work on Cartilage and start working on Gorge View, and then sometime in the spring, we'll start talking about Y Camp Road and what needs to be done out there as part of our LMIG. They got approved for this year. We've got some SPOS, but we have to, what's the matching part of that, 10%? 30%? Okay, so 30% of LMIG we have to match with, and we use SPOS money for that, to match that grant. But what's also come up, our Mike Sams with the water department had mentioned that the road going up to our 55,000 gallon tank is in really rough shape. I used to be able to drive my Avalanche up in there, but now I have to borrow the Fire F-150 to get in there because it's so rough and just all over the place. We have 2 bids for doing that. Y'all have one in y'all's pack for around $12,000. The other one came in at about, what did I tell you? Estimate. It was about half that, about 6. let's say
4
6,000.
for the gravel and.
Yeah, and then another 1,000 for the grading. The difference in price is gonna be a difference in approach. Sean wants to come in because we have a water line that runs down that road and we'd never know how deep that water line is, right? It could be 3 feet in one area and 2 inches in another. So Sean, knowing that, being familiar with our area, wants to haul some of this, a red dirt that's got a clay in it that'll help compact. He wants to build the road bed up and then come in with gravel afterwards and do grading, put in some culverts, clean out some areas for water. The idea is to try to fix that road, not patch it, but fix it up so where we're not having to go back in and do something to it every time it rains. Right now, every time it rains, we're having to do something in there. So that's his solution. That's what he would like to do. The second bid was given to us verbally by Madison McCracken. I took him up there yesterday and he looked at it. He wants to just bring gravel in. He says that's really all we need. He'd put little ditches across the road to cause the water to cross over the road and just do the gravel, but he wants to bring a dozer in, scrape it and do all this. But he did mention that he doesn't want to have to be responsible if he clips a water line. So he's the cheaper one, but he wants less responsibility. Sean will do it in a way that he's going to protect our water lines and
So McCracken's at like half the cost,
it's
$6,000?
half the cost and it's,
I mean, we could pay another extra 1,000, have them pothole that line, and find out exactly where it's at. up
We
and
could.
down through there. That's
We
a
could.
logical thing to do, that way you got it located.
yeah,
Because if you go build up more fill on top and you still don't know where the pipe is,
Right.
it's not a good thing. It's good to know where the line is located, period. So once you know where it's located, then you can know how to approach it as far as scraping the road versus fill. I'm the first one that said, we can't, I was gonna take my machine, I was like, can't scrape that road if I don't know where this water line is, there's no
Right.
way.
right.
I said, but you could go pothole the thing. You might want to see if they want to propose that and then have a better game plan on how to get, how to approach it.
Right. That'd be fine. There's no rush on this. It's not
Yeah.
an emergency situation, so we don't need to make a decision tonight.
Can we get a third bid?
We can get more bids. I just had Shane run us a bid while he was in town the other day. And
Yeah,
wanted to keep it on
I
something,
appreciate him doing it. Yeah, I know what he's thinking and I
Right.
agree with it. I agree with both approaches. The scraping, I don't agree with unless you locate it.
Right. So I can,
I'll tell you what may want to do is, our engineer, Brian Rent, and them, they'll have drawings on that.
Is it a steel iron, ductile iron,
I think
PVC?
it's a PVC, Greg, is what I remember.
I was thinking it was ductile iron on that 6-inch that we put in a few years ago, wasn't it?
But this went in, that particular stuff went in actually about 1979, when they did this section down here.
Originally, correct, but then we got that one Georgia grant, and Jimmy Yon and Bill Gocher went in and laid brand new line from the tank all the way down Main Street, around William Street, all through there, and brought down to these hydrants, it's all 6-inch line.
Well,
Now, I think it was ductile iron, but I'm not positive, it could have been PVC.
Okay. Anyway, my suggestion would be that Brian Rent and them, whatever kind of line is in there, if I'm not badly mistaken, they engineered that, and because they built the tank and engineered the whole thing, and he should have drawings and be able to tell you exactly where that line is. That goes at
They
least
already
from,
have them.
You want to table until we do a little bit of research on that line?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can,
I'm only
this
saying
was
that,
just to bring you guys up to date,
Yeah, I'm
let you
gonna-
know.
I want to get the road fixed, yeah,
Yeah.
it needs to be repaired.
but logically, the engineer that put it in there, he'll have drawings. We may be drawings in the
I
room.
think there is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. The problem is, it's just not gonna tell us how deep it is. You still can't just go in there and dig or
Well,
scrape, yeah. You'll need to pothole.
And that's what I was saying is that, Jimmy Yon was the one that buried the existing lines, ones we're using, that happened in 2009, I believe,
We can get with
2009,
Jimmy and Bill and
2012.
find out.
Do what?
We can get with Jimmy and Bill and
And
find
get with
out.
them and see how deep they remember. So I don't know if Brian was involved in that part of it. I think he was because he's the one that engineered us running the 4-inch line that we're about to tie into with that new pump station that we're putting in. And that was his whole intention was to pump water up this way and bypass that jungle line at a future date. I think he did that when they laid this brand new line back in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, he's been the only engineer that I'm aware of on the whole thing, so he'd be a good one to make contact with and see what he can tell you and what he knows and what he can show you as far as drawings and so forth, and at least you'd be that much ahead, you know.
But even if he engineered it to be 3 feet deep, we know 4 feet deep, we know the rock in this place, but maybe areas where it's.
If someone can locate it, then we can dig it,
Yeah.
dig it, and
Dig
see.
it.
It's not blind digging.
Right. So that's what I'll maybe get Madison and Sean both to tell us what they think it costs to go in there and pothole that. That's fine with a line, or get with Jimmy and maybe he'll be able to tell us, yeah, right here it was shallow, here it was deep. He might be able to remember.
We'll find out if it's ductile iron,
See if it's ductile or whether it's.
It gives a clear picture on whether the 12,000 is necessary versus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which side.
All right. So I'll do that and then I'll bring that back to y'all at the next meeting. Then we'll go ahead and move on. Mayor's comments. Some of our residents on Hickory Nut are aware that they've been laying a fiber optic line to get the internet up to Hickory Nut and get them some better speeds up there. That is a Windstream project that's been going on. I can't get them to drop subscriber lines in any other part of town right now, but they're doing it for Hickory Nut right now. That's their only focus at this point. And a lot of that has to do with Hickory Nut having been considered underserved for so many years. What are you getting, like 3 megabits at your place?
I know, I sent an email, and I'm still waiting on the dictation.
Right.
It's been down.
So that's not considered broadband. Windstream took money from the federal government for a broadband initiative, and part of that requires them to lay the lines in for underserved areas, and y'all are considered underserved, whereas here at City Hall and other areas down in this area of town are not considered underserved.
So they're gonna hit River Street?
Hmm.
They're gonna drop some in on River Street?
They may.
Okay.
What they told me was they've got to get the line in place up to the pole at the bottom of Hickory Nut, then they'll come above ground and hang it the rest of the way. Once that's up, a team will come in to start dropping subscriber lines off. And I don't know if they'll contact the residents individually or send an email out to customers in the area, or if I need to get hold of them and tell them, call this person, call that person, or get y'all a contact number to call to see what it would be. I don't know what the price would be yet for that service. But along that line, Starlink has just announced that you can go ahead and you can prepay to get satellite internet with Starlink if it's and it's been good in the areas. They're getting 100 megabit speeds off of that right now.
Are they really?
Up north. And they're not even the constellation's not complete yet. They're expecting once the constellation's complete and they're using the laser communications between satellites that you can get up to 1 gigabit of data speeds with it. So
Blows using that away, doesn't it?
Huh?
That blows using that.
it blows using that out of the water.
God, using that's terrible.
Yeah. So that'll be an option hopefully in the near future, but that's a ways out. I think the Windstream fiber optic will be in long before Starlink's up and available for just common use. So I wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. And that's really all I really wanted to say. So I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Yeah, I've got one here, the DDA. We didn't have a DDA report.
Oh,
They do-
okay.
They do
Yes.
have some things. The last DDA meeting, the DDA, of course, with the sale of the Georgia Power Building, is looking to move on to new projects now. And in doing that, what the DDA would like would be some direction from the mayor and council as to, kind of where to move next. And for example, the Rock House, okay? We had a lot of discussions around what could be done with the Rock House. it's got to be used, or at least from what we've been given, it's got to be used for public use. So we're looking for some direction as far as what is public use there. So what the DDA would like to have is a meeting potentially with the council, mayor, to talk about that direction and to look at the agreement, I guess, that was given and what the direction is for
And I might,
the Rock House.
if we schedule it, I may try to get Joe Yeager to come in on that meeting with us, since he might be able to tell us what the definition of public use is, because that is such a gray area.
Well, the next DDA meeting is the 16th, and that's probably not enough time for you. I don't know, but, just if you'd let us know about that. The next one would, given that we're in the month where the March kind of runs the same way, it's probably gonna be around the same dates.
Yeah.
But
We might be able to schedule one of our workshops. It'd be a public meeting, obviously. We'd have too many public officials in that one meeting. We could probably set up a workshop so we could just brainstorm some ideas. I know we've had a couple of ideas. Paul has come up with an idea that if we can define that use would be public use, or if we could get the state to kind of redefine what public use means. One of his ideas was to see if one of these transport ambulance services would like to stay there with a contract that they would be providing medical services to the town. I'll let Paul kind of.
It wouldn't be a transport service as such. We're talking about a advanced life support.
Okay.
It would be regular. There's Transcare at the present time does backup for Habersham and other counties on their 911. And working through the fire department, because it's kind of a thought that we can also help the fire department. I was thinking of letting them have a station here, because it helps them. They'd be dead center of 3 hospitals. They do a lot of cardiac transfers, and right now they're doing a lot of ventilation transfers from the COVID and whatnot. This is a perfect location for them if we can do that. But also a lot of their employees are firemen, and I'd love to entice a few of them to volunteer with our department. It would also open up the possibility of getting people like John, more local people, fire people that are also EMS trained to work with us. The biggest thing that the company would need would be a place for a bunkhouse.
they're going through there with, I actually took some members of Piedmont College through there because they had an interest in it. The one question I would have, and Piedmont, if they determined they had an interest, there's a good bit that's gonna have to be put forward to make that place habitable. So,
To that extent, the owner of the ambulance company owns a construction company. And I have not committed or anything like that, but I said, should there be a building that would need a lot of work, and we could offset that with the cost of, for a duration of them staying here, what would they think of that? And he said there would be no problem in totally refurbishing it. So now, if that was the case, and they only stayed until they found a bigger place, you would have Rock House refurbished at their cost, not the town.
Yeah, I don't think we need to hash through all the options, but I just want to bring up that we do have some ideas out there floating around for you guys to.
The
Start
DDA
pointing
can
the
start
DDA
working on all the ideas.
well, yeah, the biggest thing that I think the DDA is looking for is for the council and maybe legal to give some parameters as to, what's public use, I think it was also stated in there in the agreement that it cannot be anything that is quote unquote revenue
Right.
generation, because we had actually brought up at one time about potentially Foxfire, having a remote location there. And there was some like, well, if they're selling magazines or selling shirts or whatever, then, you've got a revenue consideration, and there you go.
Right. And that's, like I said, we may need to also bring in Joe and some of the other people from DNR and see if we can get them to tweak that definition a little bit, because that is really hamstringing our ability to do anything with that building. And I'll be honest, if we can't get past that definition, I would come to you guys and say, we just need to give it back to the state.
Is that,
So I think that's the level we're getting to on this, so.
You want to try to set up a meeting with DNR and see if,
See
just
if I
run a few of these ideas by and let them know where.
Yeah,
where
well,
we
it's my idea,
stand.
see if we can get something together, then get together with DDA and
Now,
council.
this agreement's a legally binding, signed agreement. I don't
It's
want to
in
go
our
around them, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to upset anyone, just ask.
It was built into the deed, and I don't know how binding that is, that would be something for Warren to have
Oh,
to
that's
answer,
fine.
so.
I'd have to take a look at it, but a lot of times covenants can be limited to 20 years. So how long ago did you get it?
It feels like 20 years, about 5 years ago,
No, it's,
How long has that been, Terry?
I would, you
4
want me
years.
to add something there?
Go ahead.
I would say about 3 years ago, I will say the top brass at DNR is willing to work with the town. So they did not donate that to us to hamstring us in any way.
Right.
So I think you just need to get that communication back going and with our legal and
It wasn't
these
so,
ideas like the fire chief or whatever on it.
it wasn't so restricted as I remember in the discussions and when it all took place. They would like to see it used for city use, such as an additional office space or additional space where the city would use it, or for a museum or something like that. Their main concern was they didn't want us to get it, they deed it to us, and we turn around and sell it. They wanted it to be used for city use and also, I think, along the lines of nonprofit. I didn't understand that it was absolutely had to be nonprofit, but those were some of the recommendations that were talked about, and so.
Yeah, so like
That helps.
with what I think Joey was talking about with Piedmont, it could be an extension campus, and they could put on programs for people to come, just the general public to come in and get hands-on doing some things on the weekends. With what Paul was suggesting, it would be a service, we would do sort of a pseudo contract with the company that would provide emergency medical services for the town and for the gorge. And would be right here in our backyard, running, helping with situations. We all know people that are coming down with different health problems around town that are gonna need more and more assistance. So if they would be willing to have something like that would benefit both of us or Piedmont or so forth. So yeah, we need to definitely sit down with DNR and see how can we define this public use and everything else? How strict are we gonna be on that? So I'll try to arrange that. And then we'll get something set up where DDA and council can get together.
While you mentioned the bunk room, for example, and just as a
Mayor,
reminder, there are 3 bedrooms upstairs in that
Yes.
building. It's 3 bedrooms. They're fairly small, but nevertheless, they're there. So.
Yes, I'm familiar with the rock house, I know, and that's why I was thinking, as far as something like that, it would probably be useful, plus the fire department would also be involved with it.
Sure.
And we could probably move some of our exercise equipment and whatnot like that in
Yeah,
there,
we can move it over there.
and be able to utilize it as well.
Sure.
I also talked to the company about, I am a instructor in basic life support, and we have instructors that are also with different levels of healthcare. And we were talking about having it open to the public for training as well. So you could get your CPR training, your basic life support training, or advanced cardiac life support training at that location.
All right, so that gives me a direction to go. I'll start pulling that stuff together. And is there anything else from DDA? All right, we'll open up for public comment. Anybody online or present? Okay, we have one person present who wants to speak.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is Terry Dobbs. With the budgeting and expenses that are going on, we have Park and Recreation has, I think, 25,000 in their SPOS. Just bringing this up because as you're finding out, it takes a long time to designate a project, put it into action, do it, and then move money. So there's $25,000 in Parks and Rec what is that? So just making a request if you would, as you're looking at these projects that are necessary and all the departments maybe define what project. And at one time we looked at doing a canoe rack out here, just as a project to utilize that. Get that closed out, move that funds to whatever budgeting items the departments need. So just wanted to bring that up because that takes a long time to work through getting that money to the right buckets, as I call it. So, and then the other question I had there is Windstream, I thought they had, I call it souped up juice on Main Street. What kind of, I thought they had that wire on Main Street.
Yeah, we have a DSL, which is
Okay.
copper wire, and at City Hall, we've got 1 megabit access, and I've got 1 megabit at my home.
Okay,
But copper wire, the signal degrades over distance.
sure,
So the further away you are from this building, by how the copper line runs. So if the copper line goes up, over, then comes down, goes under, then comes up and over, you're adding distance. And so each time you add, then if you've got 40 homes, or so, 40 or so homes up there, they're drawing off that same DSL line. You're just, every time someone logs in, you're bogging that down. So a fiber optic cable is going to give you speed of light, no matter how long the line is. Now, there is some loss of speed, but it's not something you would see, because I mean, it's still traveling at the speed of light. So that's why the fiber optic is gonna be a much better option for getting the speeds up to where they should be up there.
thank you. Yeah, we've been working with Windstream a while, so we're thankful to have that.
Yeah, so they finally were able to get that going, and they're kind of bound to, because they took that grant from the government. So it's just,
Tax
we're
dollars at work.
the last ones on the list because we've got so few people that can cause any noise. So, anything else?
No.
Hey, Mike,
Anything online? Keith, go ahead. Yeah,
two
Keith.
things. One on Windstream, I did call them last week, talk to whoever the customer service rep was. And what I was told was once that was completed, the fiber optic up to the mountain, and she told me it would probably be summer. These things take a little while to debug, and she said not to expect it before summer. She quoted, as I understood her, 400 megabits per second, significantly faster than what we have here. And we have been paying for their best speed. The arrangement from several years back was you paid a monthly amount and they would give you their best speed from now until the end of time. That was roughly the arrangement. And she told me that we would get that speed at no additional cost. Now, I will totally believe that when I see it, but upon asking, that's what we were told. So, for the good of the order, that's what I found there. On the Rock House, and Bill Turk is online as well, and Bill may want to jump in as well. Bill and I met through the agency, the DDA, with not the very top of DNR, but from Joe on up, one guy below the commissioner, about the Rock House. And the questions you want to ask are clarify, public or nonprofit, clarify the limits of those. I poked a couple of times, like as Joey said, we were thinking about Foxfire. Could they have their bookstore or a coffee shop to recoup their cost? The guys at the table looked around at each other and like, well, it doesn't sound. They weren't definitely yes or no. They just were very hesitant on that. They also said that we would have to go through whatever historic mitigation for that building that we needed. And I asked, well, what is that? And they said, well, we've got a department that deals with it. So, that's a question to ask as well. What type of expense for historic preservation is needed, if any? And Bill, jump in if you remember it differently than I.
Yeah. I don't know if Bill has anything to add on that.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute.
All right.
Can you hear me? No, Keith, I think you handled that pretty much how it was. I heard that idea of doing some emergency training or something maybe related to Tallulah Gorge. That could certainly fit really well. You know, we had talked about National Outdoor Leadership School, and there are other places that are looking for areas to have a site to train EMTs and that type of thing. That could be an interesting thing to look into. I'd be glad to poke around and see if I can find out anything. Mary Beth and I are both, I think, graduates of Knowles, so there may be something there. I don't know. And there are changes at the park right now too. I don't know the full extent, but I'm not sure if Joe is the one to contact regarding park issues at Tallulah Falls anymore.
Yeah, well, I'll probably be getting with Jennifer to start working up the chain at her level. Get her to make some of the arrangements anyway. Keep her in the loop too. All right, any other public comments, questions? Not seeing anybody jumping out at me online. All right, I don't believe we have any cause for executive session unless Warren has anything for us. He's shaking his head no. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn. Joey makes that motion. Can I get a second? Craig seconds. He's waiting for Tom to do it, but all in favor? That's unanimous. All right, guys, I appreciate it.